Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, today back to working on the Diresta Bandsaw project, and we're getting ready to start putting some pieces back on this casting moving forward. So my goal is to kind of get everything on here to get a paint job on it. We've already got our bottom bearings done. Up next, there's a piece that mounts here that the table kind of rotates on, where it will tilt back and forth. The Fay and Egan, or J.A. Fay, or whoever, you know, this saw was originally J.A. Fay, later Fay and Egan. They designed it where they had one frame that could be configured in multiple configurations for several different saws in their line. This one is just kind of a plain sawing version. They had a version for resawing, and one of the big differences is depending on which version you got, you had different tables that went on this machine. So they wisely designed this thing where the castings could be used on either one. So you have this area here where you just bolted down whatever you needed. On mine, or on this one, we've got a piece here that has an area inside, again, that will rotate that table back and forth. We need to get that on there. There's also a block that goes up on the very front here where it will adjust up and down. There's a blade, there's a blade guide that comes down out of it. A couple other little things going on up here. I want to get those parts back on. Probably going to have to do a little bit more body filling work to them to get them ready for paint, but that's really kind of my next step. So that's what we're going to be working on today. Let's get in here and get at it. Up first, I want to get this top of this casting cleaned up. So when we sent this out to have it sandblasted, they primed everything for me, which is what I asked them to do. But this area here doesn't need any primer on it, just needs to be bare metal. I've also got a little bit of body filler kind of around the edges of it that has kind of gotten up on the top. We need to knock all that stuff down. So just using a wire wheel here on my angle grinder, we'll knock it out. There we go. Now I'm also going to just take a stone here and stone it. This casting was planed with a metal planer. You can see the planer marks coming across it. And we've obviously got some high spots in here. It's not perfectly flat. It doesn't need to be perfectly flat. But I just kind of like to knock these down. It just makes for a little bit better fit. So that looks pretty good there, I think. So this is the casting that bolts down on the top up there, and what I want to do on it, I've already got it cleaned up and primed as well, but I want to flip it over, and on this one I did not sandblast the bottom. I did this in my blasting cabinet here in the shop, so but I do want to just take my stones and stone the bottom of this one as well. I talk about these precision ground flat stones often, and wow, you can just feel when you get all everything knocked off of it. It looks like there's a little bit of grease or something on there. Let me get something to see if I can knock that off. There you go. I got that cleaned up. But getting those little bitty burrs out of the way really makes a big difference when you're putting together things that are flat. And as with the other piece, I mean, this was machined, looks like with a fly cutter at some time, and it's not perfectly flat. But when you look at all the highs in there, it's going to average out. We're going to have plenty of contact area, and it's going to be just fine for the way we're going to use it. So let's get this over there on the machine. And these just go together. I think, though, before I bolt these down, that what I want to do is put a little layer of oil or something between those two layers, just to kind of help prevent any rust or anything from going on in between them. I'm just going to take a little of this light oil here. Put a thin layer on there. And there we go. Looks like it goes right there. So there's just a couple of square head bolts that drop down in here. I think that I'm going to put a little anti-seize on these. Just kind of helps down the road. Next guy that comes in here to take this thing apart, make sure nothing gets rusted and corroded. I'll put some on up there a little bit higher. Drop that down in there. Do the same thing on this one. There we go. I've got a 8-point socket here using to drive this home. And that should be mounted. Now up top here, we got this front face here. Again, we've got some primer on there. I want to get all this cleaned off because there's some stuff that mounts on the front here. Wire wheel time. All right, I think that looks pretty good. So this is the piece that kind of mounts on that front. There's a dovetail. This is the actual dovetail that fits up in there. This will mount to the machine. But before I put all this back together, I want to take my tape off of this. I put this on here to protect it when I was sandblasting it. Like I said, I did these in my blasting cabinet here. So I just used some painter's tape. And I just tried to avoid those areas more than anything else. But I did put some painter's tape on this just to kind of give me some protection in case any sand did get in these areas. So let's get all that out of there. All right. And I want to check the fit here. I remember when we took these apart, they were pretty tight. And they feel pretty tight again already. So I think what I might do here is start out with just stoning these, knock off any high spots. Same thing on the back here. To get up in here, I'm just using a little slipstone. And wow, those things they feel pretty filthy. What I'm going to do, see if I can clean those out a little bit first. I'm just using a little penetrating oil here as a solvent. It actually works as a pretty good solvent. All right, guys, I went over and cleaned the stone. It was pretty clogged up with just gunk, and basically I just go over to use WD-40 and just really just rinse it down real good. And I just rubbed it, kind of surfaced it up on another stone and got all that gunk out, cleaned it real good with the WD-40, and now we're back to working like we should. It's just something maintenance you need to do from time to time on these stones. And I went ahead and cleaned up these stones while I was at it. So they get kind of clogged up with stuff, need to be cleaned out. And one thing WD-40 does a good job of. So while I'm at it, I'm also going to hit the bottom of this. Just again using this slipstone. Make sure we get any birds and stuff out of there. All right. Let's see what we got now. Just that little bit of cleaning. And it's still a little tight, but you know, it wouldn't even go in before. That's just deburring with a stone. I think what I'm going to do is go over and just kind of blind scrape this one time, put a crosshatch pattern on it. That'll help with getting some oil in there and make it slide a little bit better. I think it's going to help out a little bit as well. I'm going to have to bump that out. Still a little bit tight, particularly up in the top part here. So, all right, I'm going to get my scraper out and set that up to scrape real quick. So here's our block. I've got it over here in my big Wilton vise. It's opened up. It's going to hold it just fine. And what I'm going to do is use my Biax power scraper, and we're just going to put some scrape marks on this. Now, normally when I do scraping, you know, I'm doing usually a precision machine tool type application, and I'm really scraping for absolute precision. In this case, I'm really just kind of scraping to get some clearance in there. This bandsaw is not a machine tool in the standpoint that we're trying to keep tolerances to 10,000ths of an inch or anything like that. I just want this thing to slide. I don't want it to be too loose, but I want it to be able to slide without any problems. I'm not going to be going to a lot of trouble to glue this thing up and trying to get, you know, perfect contact and all that. The simple truth of the matter is that this thing hardly ever gets adjusted, but when it does, I want it to be able to move. So I'm going to put the scratch marks in here that will hopefully make it a little bit smaller in thickness, and it'll also give a little place for the oil grooves to go into, or the oil to go into these little grooves to help keep it lubricated, and it'll be a lot better than it was when it was from the factory. So let's do it. Do a crosshatch pattern. I'm going to go 90 degrees to that and come back across in the other direction. And I'm going to be getting in your way on this shot so you can see what I'm doing. All right, that just removed a little bit of metal off of there and gave a place for oil grooves to go. I'm going to go ahead and flip this around. We'll do the other side and go test fit. And if need be, we'll come back, figure out where our tight spots are, and remove a little bit more metal. All right, let's go test fit it again. And like I said, if necessary, I'll make some adjustments to the in there till we get a good fit. But just that little bit of scraping that we did over there, when I come over here now, put this in here, I want you to see how easy this slides. That is what we're after. That is a dovetail, like what we're looking for. And, you know, it was just a little bit tight, had a few little burrs on there. Knocking that off made all the difference in the world. And we've got a part I think we're ready to put back over on the machine now. So first thing we'll do is we'll mount this dovetail to the casting, and then this piece will fit onto that. So let's get her on there. So this dovetail just kind of fits up here on the front. Just want to make sure that's going to fit in that slot okay, and it is. And we've got a couple of countersunk bolts or screws that'll go through here and do that. So let's we'll kind of just get this positioned about where it goes. It's just about right there, I think. Yep. And before I put these screws in, I am going to put a little anti-seize on them again, just like we did up top. I'm going to put this one in, then we'll pull that top one out and put the anti-seize on there. I've just kind of got it positioning where we're at the moment, the one on the top. All right, pull this one back out. Put a little anti-seize on it. Take my lead hammer. I want to just seat that in there real good. And get these screws tightened up now. All right, I think that's mounted. Now we're gonna put a little whey oil in here. This whey oil is designed for going on machine ways. It's a little bit tacky, so it kind of helps it stay where it needs to be. And I'm not wanting to get an excessive amount in there, but I do want to have enough to lubricate that. Sliding piece on there. We'll do the other side. And let's see if that'll slide on there. All right. Should just drop straight down here. And it's hitting on that screw. I noticed that screw didn't go all the way in, so I'm gonna have to do some work on that, figure out what's going on there. All right, I think we got our problem resolved. I just took this thing off and flipped it upside down, and everything seemed to line up a lot better. Evidently, those holes were drilled and tapped all in the same operation, and one of them was just a little bit out of a line. But when you put it on the same way as the other side, or the same way it came off, everything lined up just fine. But you can see there, that fits in there just right, and slides up and down easily. There's a screw over here on the side that is used to adjust that up and down, and that's gonna work out just fine. All right, I think we got our parts on that we wanted to get on today. Well, there we go. I think we got some more stuff knocked out here on the bandsaw, just getting a few more pieces attached here. Now, I got a little bit of work to do off camera. I'm not going to bore you guys with it, but I am going to come in here with some body filler on these areas and kind of work on them, just make them look a little bit nicer. We're going to have to come back and do some sanding on them and what have you. Again, I'm not going to bore you guys with all that. But you can see where we're at, one step closer. Once I get my body work done on this stuff here, I think we're gonna be ready to paint this thing. So that's gonna probably be my next step. And then once we get it painted, we'll finish building it out. We still gotta get the top whole mechanism done, get that top wheel mounted, et cetera, get the bottom wheel mounted, et cetera, et cetera. There's still a good bit of work to do on this saw by all means, but we are getting to the point where we can really kind of start getting into the things that make it look a little bit closer to being done than where we're at right now. So with that, guys, that is going to be a wrap. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thumbs up, comments appreciated. Big thank you to all my patrons out there who support the channel financially. Greatly appreciated. You guys make a big difference in what we're able to do around here. And with all that, guys, we're going to sign off. Be sure to come back and follow us later on and check out what goes on with this Jimmy Diresta bandsaw, as well as all the other projects I have going on in the shop. So with that, we'll see you guys on the next video. As always, thanks for watching.